Folks, if there was an injury report that came out yesterday, Lance Barton would have been listed as doubtful. But this morning, he was upgraded to probable, and we are back with another loaded episode for you guys. We're going to talk every major college football game this weekend, the SEC doubleheader that everyone is looking forward to. We're going to talk upset alert. We're going to talk best bets. We're here for it. Lance, how you feeling, buddy?
We're hanging in there, man. We're hanging in there. Like I told you yesterday. I mean, it's been rough, man. The twins are they're 1 year old now, and they're in daycare and started daycare in August, and the amount of sickness that they keep bringing back to this house is unbelievable. And I went to the doctor yesterday, and upper respiratory infection, stomach virus, got hooked up to an IV because I was severely dehydrated, and antibiotic shot, steroid shot, put me on an antibiotic, put me on a steroid. But hey, like I told you last night, man, when you asked, you were like, are you going to be able to do this tomorrow? Or am I going to need to call an audible? And I said, man, look, if I wake up tomorrow and I feel even remotely okay, we're in the middle of October now, bro. We're about that time where we separate the pretenders from the contenders in college football. And you boy here is a contender. I told you I was going to strap up the chin straps tight, buckle those chin straps. We're going to lock them freaking gates, and we're going to get it on, man. So here we are. I'm back. I'm sitting here drinking some Gator Light mixed with water, and I mean, it's podcast or die, bro. So we got Georgia and Texas and Bama and Tennessee. We got Matt Rule and Siggs getting after it in Bloomington, LSU and Arkansas. I mean, we got it all, man. Let's ride. I'm here.
Yep. Let's get to our ATB marquee matchups, brought to you by Home Field Apparel. Are you looking for the perfect way to rep your team? Check out Home Field Apparel. With unique vintage-inspired designs for Home Field Apparel colleges across the country, you'll find something special that stands out for you. Made from super soft fabric, their gear is perfect for game day or lounging at home. Use promo code ATB15 to get 15% off your order at homefieldapparel.com. Don't miss out, homefieldapparel.com, promo code ATB15. Let's get to prime time on ABC, 7:30, Georgia at Texas. We literally just looked at this line before we were recording, and it has gone all the way up to 5. It started out at 3.5 Texas. I didn't think this game or the Alabama-Tennessee game would really budge all week, just because, 3.5, 2.5 seem like pretty solid numbers, but some serious money is coming in on Texas for that thing to jump on Georgia, a full 1.5 points. Couple notes here. When ranked matchups feature an SEC night game, in the last 19 events of these, home teams are 15-4 against the spread in night games and SEC matchups in the last 19. Texas, after all the talk I've been doing about the week after the Red River shootout, the numbers do not back up anything I say. So just don't believe anything I say, folks. Texas is 23-3 straight up after facing Oklahoma since 1999. Okay, 16-9 against the spread. That's pretty solid. I know they're usually facing Iowa State and Baylor and Houston and all that. As a favorite, they're 17-1 straight up in that spot. As an underdog, still 6-2 straight up and 7-1 against the spread. I know the last time they faced a top 5 team was 2010 against Nebraska. Early thoughts on this game is Texas seemed to have found themselves a running back last week, the last couple weeks actually. Georgia really struggling to defend the run and obviously struggling to run the ball themselves. I put out an interesting tweet yesterday, just kind of engaging everybody's interest on it. Who does people trust more, Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers? And at the beginning of the season, but in the fall camp, that answer would have been 100% Carson Beck, no doubt about it. And just a tremendous fall from grace for him, as the overwhelming majority, not the full majority, but the overwhelming majority of it was Quinn Ewers. And that was pretty interesting to me.
I agree, because going into the year, like you said, Carson Beck was the unanimous, going to be the number 1 pick in next year's NFL draft. He was that guy that was listed for that. Yeah, I mean, I guess when you talk about this matchup, you got to start with the quarterbacks. And this is just strange, man, with Georgia. Normally you know what you're going to get from Georgia. And I just don't know what I'm going to get from Georgia right now. They're still finding ways to win games other than the Bama game, but they're still winning games. They're still winning good enough, but like not as impressive as what we're used to seeing. And their rankings as far as like rush yards per game and success rate and running the football, defensive numbers, just the numbers overall, man, just don't look good right now. And they've also got the off-field issues that we've seen with this team as well. And I'm just wondering, man, that like at some point, are these things correlating with issues on the field as well? Because it's strange to see a Georgia team not be as sharp. They're just not sharp at all right now. And I don't know what I'm going to get with this Georgia team. Like, do you feel comfortable going into this game thinking that Georgia can run the football against Texas?
No.
Me either. Do you feel comfortable going into this game that Georgia's DBs can stop the Texas passing game?
No. I mean, if we're talking about it, we talked about preseason, Texas had one of the top receiving cores in the country. And so it's going to be the best across the board, not the best receiver. That was Ryan Williams. The best across the board, balanced attack passing wise that Georgia has faced so far this year.
100%. Like I said, I don't think Texas has some dominant number one receiver, but Silas Bolden and Isaiah Bond and the freshman kid that's been Wingo, that's been doing Ryan Wingo.
Yeah.
And then one of the most, like some people say he's the best tight end in the country. They've got multiple tight ends that they're running at you. You know how Sark is. He's going to be multiple and have multiple weapons that he's going to distribute the football to. Multiple running backs went out before the season. Texas has had no problems running the football so far. So, yeah, I mean, as far as you're right, as far as a collection overall of weapons, yeah, it's the best that Georgia has seen so far. But on the flip side of that, Texas has not faced an offense yet. Like, I think the best passing offense they've faced is UTSA. They've faced 4 offenses so far that are ranked below, like they're ranked in the 100s in pass offense. When you know how bad Michigan is at throwing the football. Oklahoma is statistically the worst offense in the SEC. Faced them last week. They literally have trouble completing a forward pass, just like Michigan does right now. So they haven't faced anybody yet that can really even remotely challenge them on the perimeter and in the passing game.
Yeah.
And I know Carson Beck hasn't looked as sharp, but still, he's obviously capable to do just that. They still have good enough receivers that they can stress this Texas defense down the field and in the passing game. And I think this could be a situation where it's weird to say this about a Georgia team, but I'm not sure that Georgia right now can just line up and run the football on Texas. So to be able to run the ball some, I think they need to set it up by throwing the football. And Texas has been one of the best teams in the country in creating sacks and tackles for a loss so far this year. Colin Simmons, one of their freshman defensive ends, is an absolute freak. He's another one of those 5 stars. Not all 5 stars are created equal, kind of like Dylan Stewart at South Carolina. So I believe that if Georgia can give Carson Beck time, I do think that there'll be some yards to be had downfield in the passing game, and that is how they are going to have to win this game. This will come down just like Ohio State, Oregon did, just like Alabama and Georgia did. When the best of the best teams, most of the time, depending on the styles of matchups, but most of the best of the best teams right now, one of the things that they can do better than others is create explosive plays in the passing game. If Georgia can limit explosive plays from Texas in the passing game, they're going to have a shot to win this game. If Texas can limit Georgia in the explosive passing game, I think that Texas can win even if they don't hit explosives on offense. So to me, the key is, can they limit Georgia from throwing the football down the field against them, and can Carson Beck cooking against them?
Yeah.
Because he has that capability to do that. We know that. He can do that.
Yeah. Question for you: who do you think SEC fans are rooting for in this game?
Georgia.
Yeah, 100%. Right. I mean,
100%. Simple answer.
They don't want Texas coming in the
No.
first year and just running the conference. That's just
Dude, I've had Bama friends text me this week. I've had even Auburn friends that like literally quote unquote quote from one of my best friends called me yesterday and his exact words, dude, I can't believe I'm saying this. I want Georgia to kick their ass. He said, I know they might not be able to, but he said, I want Georgia to win this game. So yeah, I do think that SEC fans are pulling for Georgia in this spot. And I've heard some other folks say this on some of their shows this week and some stuff that I haven't got a chance to listen to a lot of things, but I heard a little bit. Some people say that Texas looks more like Georgia right now than Georgia looks like Georgia.
Yeah, that's the thing. If people are coming into this game and they think it's just going to be, an SEC newcomer coming into the big bad conference and then playing Georgia and they're going to get beat, like this isn't your regular old Texas from 6 years ago, right?
No, I mean, the way that Sark has recruited and the talent acquisition that he's brought in
that all year last year.
Right. It's nuts, man. We all know what he's done in the transfer portal, what he's done in high school recruiting with stacking top ranked recruiting classes, and not only that, like obviously, again, man, most people think of like Texas and some of these other teams, like a Sark team. They look at the speed on the perimeter and all this other stuff. Dude, what makes them special right now is how good they are on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Texas again, we're talking about Georgia here. Mm-hmm. Texas is whose offensive line do you trust more in this game?
Oh, yeah, Texas.
Whose defensive line do you trust more in this game?
Yeah, probably Texas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do think that Georgia's defensive line I think that is close. That's a very close. If Georgia's healthy,
with 100% Michael Williams, but he's clearly not 100%.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of areas that I necessarily favor Georgia. Yeah. And if you look at it, which is probably why the line is Texas -5. Before we came on air here, I was like, bro, Texas has gone all the way up to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that unless I'm mistaken, I mean, Georgia's obviously, they just played at Alabama. That's a hostile environment. In the last few years, Georgia, wherever they go, they draw everybody's best as far as environments are concerned. We saw what that was like at Kroger Field at Kentucky earlier this year. We saw what it was like in Tuscaloosa. We can keep going on the list over the years. So I don't think that the atmosphere at DK Royal will be something that they'll honestly will matter that much. I just don't. But I'm just interested to see, man, what can Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann and all that brain power that they've got on defense, what can they put together to try to, because the best chance they've got to win this game, hit explosives in the pass game and get pressure on Quinn Ewers. Can they do those two things? If they don't get pressure on Ewers, they're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely the matchup to watch is Texas offense versus Georgia defense because, I mean, I don't know how much I trust Bobo over there on the offensive side and his play calling. I mean, he got him in trouble in the first half against Alabama, and he just said, let's chuck it deep in the second half and start, throwing the ball over the yard. So,
which, by the way, I think that's what Georgia's going to do in this game. I think they're going to throw haymakers and try to sling it down the field. Those shot plays.
They got to try to start quick too, because they have not started quick at all. And that's just kind of been a thing too for them the past couple of years. I mean, I remember games last year playing South Carolina at home, and it's like 7-0 at the first, and at halftime, and it's just you got to start quicker against some of these teams, and especially in these big games, you got to start quicker. So,
what's the deal with ETN at running back for Georgia too? Like all that talk about him coming into the season, like I know he got suspended for a game and such, but that just doesn't make any sense. This is 2 years in a row now.
I think that loss of Tate Ratledge really, really hurts him. But I mean, again, it's just, some of these guys are in the portal for a reason. Like if Florida thought he was really, really good, like they probably could have paid him. Like they probably would have, right? But you just, I don't know. I know some guys are in the portal because they're freaks, like Caleb Downs, right? But there's a lot of guys in the portal that they're toss-ups, man.
I think ETN did on his end, did the right thing by going to play for a team like Georgia.
I mean, for sure.
Yeah, I think he did. But up to this point,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me because, I mean, he was a good back at Florida.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why he's not any better right now for them.
Yep. All right, game picks. I'm not putting any money on this game as of right now. But if I did, I would probably lean Texas to cover, honestly. And I know I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like you've been on the Georgia train forever because you never know when they are going to flip the switch and Kirby's going to say whatever the correct thing is to say to them to get them fired up before the game, and they're going to come out and they're going to be Georgia again, right? So that's why I want to stay away from this game. I think, like we said, Texas has a lot of advantage, a lot more than Georgia. Playing at home, I think they can win this game by a touchdown. But that's really hard for me to take 5 points against Kirby Smart.
It is, man. It is. And I've gone back and forth on this week. I've decided that I'm not going to be my stubborn self with this. If you've been following along with this podcast a lot, I had some nice little sound bites from this summer that I'm of me talking about how Georgia was going to beat Texas, that Texas was not beating Georgia this year. But that was before the season. There's now been a lot of football played. We're in the middle of October. And as Tyler says that the other day in a group text, he said, I remember a day when Lance would bet on games and talk about games and talk about matchups by using his eyeballs from games. So
prided himself on it.
I did. So I'm going back to that, Lance. And honestly, man, there's nothing that my eyeballs tell me so far that tells me that Georgia's going to win this game.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is no doubt that at any point, Georgia can flip that switch and show that team that they showed in the second half against Clemson and show that team that they showed in the second half in Tuscaloosa. If they flip that switch this week, sure, they can beat Texas. But right now, if I'm power rating and saying Team A plays Team B on a neutral field, who am I taking? From what my eyeballs have shown me this year, that's Texas against anybody in the country. So I'm not going to be stubborn. I think Texas wins this game. I think this is going to be a war. I think Kirby Smart and that coaching staff and this team has too much about them to walk into DK Royal and allow Texas just to walk all over them. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a war. So I'll take Texas. I guess, gun to my head, if you made me say who covers, right now I'd say Texas. But as the week goes on, I need to know who's playing and who's not playing for Georgia. Their questionable list right now is a little large. Yeah. So if Michael Williams and Smile Munden and some of those guys on defense, if they're giving it a go on Saturday night, I'm not going to have a bet either way in this game. But if all those guys are giving it a go, I'd say Georgia to cover and Texas to win. But right now, yes, my eyeballs tell me the Longhorns are going to get this done.
Proud of you, man. That's growth right there.
Hook them.
I mean, last week with Ohio State and Oregon, I said Oregon was going to beat them in the preseason. Then I went on Ohio State. So this year we said all preseason Georgia was going to beat them, and now we're going back on it again. So we'll see how it works. Let's go to the first game of that doubleheader on ABC. 3:30, the third Saturday in October, Alabama at Tennessee. Now, this is a game where if you would ask me September 21st, September 28th, around then, give me an early line on this game, and it's Tennessee plus 2.5. Like, I'm hammering the Vols all day at home against Alabama. Both teams were looking good at that time. And ever since September 28th, like, I don't know what's happened. Like the wheels are starting to fall off for both teams a little bit. Both have suffered a loss. Both had close games last week at home against inferior opponents. I told you this before the show. Underdogs in the SEC conference games this year, 18-6 against the spread. So that plays in favor of Georgia, who we just picked against, and Tennessee, because they are 3-point dogs at home this week in Knoxville.
If you don't have it in front of you, that's okay. Didn't you say, though, that something about the primetime home teams in home in primetime?
Yeah, everyone ranked matchups featuring SEC night game. That was SEC night game, so home teams were 15-4 against the spread. I know ranked versus ranked this year. It is paid to go with the favorite, so that obviously helps in Texas and Alabama's favor. So, as a home dog, dating back to 2020, Volunteers are 1-7 straight up and 2-6 against the spread as a home underdog.
And probably that doesn't happen often. I would imagine that's normally against who? Alabama and Georgia.
And I would imagine that one straight up victory was probably that 52-49 game back in 22, right?
Yep.
So, Tennessee, the one thing they do is they stop the run. They're only giving up 2.3 yards per carry. I believe that's second in the country.
Hey, that's okay though, because guess what Alabama just won't do? They won't commit to the freaking run.
The problem with Tennessee is they had issues with Taylor Green at Arkansas. And he didn't turn the ball over. That was huge.
Yep.
Jalen Milroe's better than Taylor Green, okay? Yep. They're going to devise some plays for him, especially in that first quarter on scripted plays. They're going to get him out into space because that is what Nick Sheridan loves to do in those scripted plays. And it's just a matter of, is he going to stick with the run game? Again, I would say that 3 weeks ago, like stick to the run game, keep Nico off the field. But it's like Tennessee's offense hasn't shown anything recently. I think if you break it down to explosive plays, Alabama's definitely got the edge there, right? Because Tennessee, I think they can. Like Heupel's offenses have been known to do that. So, like Josh Pate said, there could be a moment where everything just clicks this year for Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it comes against Alabama, but
it could.
They have the weapons, and it just hasn't clicked this year. Bama's obviously had some shot plays and explosive drives.
Right. Let me ask you that, Tyler. Yeah. So we've talked about that the supposed weakness for Tennessee going into this year was their secondary. They've really only played one team that could kind of exploit that. Like Florida doesn't have the healthy enough weapons on the outside to really do it last week. Mertz was okay in that spot, but like they didn't necessarily like try to test that as much. Mm-hmm. I mean, Taylor Green with Arkansas kind of, but obviously with Alabama's explosive passing game, their ability to be explosive in the passing game, I think this is really the first team that they've faced that has the opportunity to at least test it and show us, can Tennessee defend it? Can they defend the downfield passing game? Because we know Alabama is going to throw shot plays. That's what they do.
Similar to Texas, Georgia, where Texas they haven't faced anybody on offense yet. So it is similar to that.
Yeah. So I think that is, like you said, I think Tennessee's defensive line is so freaking nasty that, I mean,
that's where Alabama may have issues because obviously we saw what South Carolina did to them.
Yeah, when James Pierce matched up against Elijah Pritchett.
Yeah.
Like if I'm Tennessee, I'm matching him up against Elijah Pritchett every play. Yeah. So obviously, like at least though it's not two edge rushers. I know Tennessee's got other good defensive linemen, but like
over there,
right? But Dylan Stewart and Kennard at South Carolina are probably the best duo in the SEC.
And pass rushers. Will Nick Sheridan do what we are saying and what everybody's saying is just run the ball right at James Pierce?
It maybe. To be honest with you, man, I don't know. Like we've looked at and seen, like our boy Cole Frederick sent us the stats the other day about what DeBoer's teams have been running the football, dating back to Fresno and his days at Washington, and they don't really run the ball. I know that last year they ran it fine, but overall, like their numbers, like across the country, as far as like rush yards per game and overall rushing yards, they're not very high.
Yeah.
But they are ranked very high in throwing the football every year. DeBoer's offenses are. So I don't know why I would expect for Alabama just all of a sudden, hey, we're facing Tennessee this week, who's one of the best run defenses in the entire country. Let's run right at them. Like I don't think they're going to do that. I think you're going to see Milroe run the ball because he has to be successful. When the play breaks down, if the defensive line, that is, again, anytime you play Alabama, when the play breaks down and all of a sudden Milroe escapes for 30 or 40 yards, 15, 20 yards, extends plays, that's what you have to deal with against him. And so I just think that they're going to try to test Tennessee in the downfield passing game, and we'll see if Tennessee can stop it. If they do, they got a great chance of winning this game. On the flip side of it, Alabama all of a sudden recently has had trouble of stopping the run. So Dylan Sampson, if you're Tennessee, I'm sure that they're probably looking at that, trying to have success in the run game with him.
Mm-hmm.
There have been receivers that have been open for Tennessee. Nico's just not been hitting them for whatever reason. So can Alabama, because you know what Tennessee's going to do, they're going to stretch you out across the entire field. I'm wondering if this new defensive scheme that Alabama's running, where they've got 5 or 6 DBs on the field all at one time, will that help them in a matchup like this as far as defending the entire perimeter of the field? I don't know. Maybe it does.
I don't know, man, because, I mean, we've been yelling at Heupel all year for just running the ball 66% of the time, Mike.
Yeah.
2 out of every 3 plays is a run, and you got 5 or 6 DBs on the field. That's not exactly, a surefire plan for stopping the run.
It's not, but, I mean, I'm just wondering if Tennessee has success in the run game, that's going to put a lot of stress on this Alabama defense, no doubt.
Yeah.
That was I know the shot plays a few years ago to Jalen Hyatt and all those downfield pass plays, but the reason why the offense was so successful that day was Hendon Hooker in the run game and their run game overall. Mm-hmm. The ability to move the chains constantly, and you're spreading the field so much that you don't have that many bodies that are in there in like compact there at the line of scrimmage. So that's how Tennessee is able to bludgeon you in the run game. So I don't know.
Let me ask you a question on so Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. Which fan base, as of 11:30 p.m. on Saturday night Eastern time, which fan base is freaking out the most?
I'm going to say Tennessee.
Okay. That gives us a little hint of where Lance is going with this game.
Yeah, well, just go ahead and lead right into it. Everybody knows my fandom here, but I normally don't give out bets on them. I've been successful in the 2 years of doing this podcast, of doing so, of the times that I pick and choose the spots. But I think you're getting Alabama in a rare spot right now. Hey, look, maybe Alabama just really isn't that good. I know that's what all the pundits are saying. I know that some of them are saying the same thing about Tennessee this week as well. Basically, both teams are taking the exact same criticisms this week, just about different things. Tennessee's criticisms are what the hell's wrong with Nico and what's wrong with the offense. Alabama's criticisms is mostly in regards to discipline and what's wrong with the defense and stuff. So they're both facing criticisms this week. Usually when Alabama is being kind of counted out a little bit and is in a spot like this, I actually think it's a good thing that they're getting out of Tuscaloosa and getting away. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing to go playing in Knoxville as opposed to playing in Tuscaloosa. It's not what I'm saying. But going on the road together as a team, having to band together and play together on the road like this and go get it done, I actually think that Alabama matches up fine with Tennessee, and what Alabama does well can give Tennessee problems. And I think Alabama wins this game. I think this is a game that Jalen Milroe needs to step up and will step up and make a lot of plays on offense for this Alabama offense. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Tennessee's offense have a little more success. But I just think Alabama's offense is going to stress Tennessee's defense more than they've been stressed all year this year. And I think Alabama covers. I took Alabama at -2.5. And that was one of my best bets of this week. Alabama to -2.5.
Yeah. This is a game that Kalen DeBoer usually thrives in.
Yep.
Close games against ranked teams.
Yep. The bigger game.
He's a big game coach. So
yeah. He struggles against Vandy, South Carolina, or whoever else, just like he did at Washington. Struggled against bad Arizona State. Struggled against goofy teams like that. And then he would go beat Oregon and go beat USC and go beat Texas. Just strange, but that's what that's all he's done in his career.
Yep. So I'm not going to bet against my boy. If I was, I mean, it's hard for me to take even a questionable Tennessee team that we found out we thought was good, but it'd be hard for me to go against them in Knoxville. I think it's hard for anybody to go against them in Knoxville. Home field advantage is in college football, it's unlike any other sport, right? It's just
in Tennessee, the last 2 or 3 years has been, if I'm not mistaken, home loss wise, I think their only home loss in the last couple of years have been to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, if that line were to balloon to plus 3.5 or something for Tennessee, then I might have to take a little nibble on Tennessee.
yeah,
Plus
like
3.5.
I think this is going to be a war and a very close game. But again, in a 2.5 point line, if you win by a field goal, you cover.
Yep. All right.
Yes, sir.
You hear that? Big noon kickoff in Bloomington with Coach Siggs taking on Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers on Fox at noon.
2 of our favorite coaches.
Yeah, man. Both coming off a bye. Since 2015, undefeated teams in their 6th game or later, playing at home on extended rest, are 61-10 straight up.
Woo.
And 39-28-4 against the spread. That's a stat for you.
Goodness gracious.
Talking about these two teams, Nebraska's number one advantage against Indiana is defending the run game.
100%.
Have not allowed a rushing touchdown yet. Only team in the country who hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown. And they're only giving up 2.5 yards per carry, which I think is 3rd in the country, just behind Tennessee.
Dude, all you got to do is just look at the guys on the defensive line for Nebraska. They've got 2 monster defensive tackles, and they've got some of the best nicknames in college football. One of them is the Vanilla Gorilla, and I can't remember the other guy's nickname. You may know, but I can't remember it. But yeah, that just like the Vanilla Gorilla. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Like, you got to, if you're nicknamed the Vanilla Gorilla, you ain't running on that guy. You're just not.
No, you might as well. Yeah, you run away.
Exactly.
You run away from the gorilla.
Exactly.
Indiana, they want to throw the ball. I mean, they want to run the ball, but they're more successful in the passing game with Curtis Rourke, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks. And again, it's similar to Texas. They haven't played a team that is as good as Nebraska, right? Nebraska's the best team they played.
100%.
They played Maryland. That's probably the best team. Actually, Northwestern smashed Maryland, so it's probably Northwestern. Yeah, in that windy game up there on the lake. But they've got a 3-headed monster at wide receiver with Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., and Miles Price. And those dudes all have at least 18 catches, almost 300 yards each. They've got also Miles Cross as well, who's got 2 touchdowns. I mean, they can pretty much throw it to 4 or 5 different guys on their team. And that's not to mention Donovan McCulley, who's left the team and he's entered the transfer portal, one of their star returning receivers that Siggs got to come back.
Yeah, so, I saw where he's really considering Michigan. That's smart if you're a wide receiver. Let's go play wide receiver at Michigan, where I hope he likes to block.
If Portnoy is going to, shell out $18 million for a quarterback or something, then why not?
Yeah, why would you, instead of playing in Siggs and Shanahan's offense, I'm going to go over here and maybe get 1 pass thrown to me every game and just block. What a joke.
Yeah. So, kids don't make the wisest decisions all the time. So,
nope.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on this game, man? I mean, Hoosiers, Cornhuskers, Dylan Raiola coming on the road. Have they played? I don't know if they played a road
at Purdue.
Game.
They played at Purdue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I know. Yeah. I mean, I know. They played at Purdue. So this is, again, their only 2 road games are in the Hoosier State, right there in your backyard, bro.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Raiola so far has been cool, calm, collected all year long. Not making a bunch of mistakes. That's the thing again.
Sometimes he's been a little too calm and collected.
I agree. But honestly, though, like, that is one of the things I've been most impressed with him. Is normally you see a freshman that has the talent that he's got and the arm talent that he's got want to go out and do too much, but he lets the game come to him. He just manages the game really well for them. He'll make some very wild throws that'll show you the arm talent that he has. I just think, man, this is another one. This is going to be a war. I'll be surprised if this is again, at a line at 6.5 right now.
There's so many wars going on out there.
There is, man.
Like, let's just not, come on.
Yeah. This is going to be another great game. I would imagine that Nebraska's defense, no matter what, will be able to keep them barring them turning the ball over multiple times, Nebraska's defense will be able to keep them in this game and keep this game close. What I'm interested to see, though, on the flip side of it, again, Nebraska's got an offense now. They've got weapons outside. They've got solid backs. Raul has played really well. The offensive line has played well this year for Nebraska. All everybody's talking about is this Nebraska defense versus the Indiana offense. I want to know the flip side of it. What's Indiana's defense going to do against the first offense they've really played with a pulse? Because they did give up some points in yardage against Maryland.
And Northwestern.
Yep. So what are they going to look like against Nebraska's offense? Because Nebraska's got the best defense in this game. Numbers will tell you so far that Indiana's got the best offense in this game. And that, that's probably the case. But again, Nebraska's played a much tougher schedule so far. They've already played, I know, funny to say this, looking back on it now, they've played Colorado, who's turned out to be pretty solid. They've played Illinois. I mean, Illinois turned out to be a solid football team. So neither one of them played a bunch of world beaters yet by any means, but Nebraska's played a little bit of a tougher schedule so far than Indiana. So, but I want to see what Indiana's defense can do against this Nebraska offense. Can they force?
If you look at the ESPN efficiency rankings, where opponent adjusted, tempo adjusted, all that stuff, IU's offense is second in the country. But then, their defense is 71st in the country.
Yeah.
And that's even taking into account the opponents they've played. So there are some question marks on that defense.
Yeah, that's the part that worries me, because Nebraska's offensive line is legit. They've got a bunch of guys across that O-line that have played a lot of football in their career. And they're solid as can be. They've got 3 or 4 wide receivers that can play. They've got multiple backs that can go, and a solid quarterback. So that's the part of that. Like, I don't have a pick in this game right now. I'm leaning towards taking Nebraska in the points, but I think Indiana finds a way to win this game. I think Siggs and Indiana finds a way to win this one. And normally I would say that the Big Red Machine that's in Lincoln, that fan base would normally come to Indiana in a matchup like this, in a year like this, where they're excited about their Huskers and their winning games and take over a stadium. You would probably know more about this than me. I got all ideas that Siggs has that fan base so fired up. There's going to be a lot of Hoosiers in that stadium on Saturday, and it will not be like SEC teams taking over Vandy Stadium or something like that. I don't think Nebraska is going to come in and just take over Indiana Stadium Saturday.
Yeah.
They may have a decent amount there, but I think that Indiana's fan base will show up for this one.
Yeah. Friday night in Bloomington is Hoosier Hysteria night. So it's men's basketball, women's basketball. It used to be Midnight Madness, where they would literally do it at midnight.
Yeah. Kind of like Kentucky does it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Assembly will be packed out for Hoosier Hysteria. So people will be in town. They'll be jacked up for that. Big noon kickoffs in town for the first time in probably since the existence of Big Noon Kickoff.
Yeah.
And the game's at noon. I mean, they're going to be ready to go. I think, the fans are fired up. I know countless people that are going to that game.
What's that spot? What's that spot you took me to when we went to that hoops game? They had those delicious fries.
We went to Nick's. Shout out to Nick's English Hut, man.
Those fries, man, were so good.
Good stuff down there. I think this is going to be a close game as well. There's no way I'm not taking the Hoosiers in this game. Like I said, 61-10 straight up, teams that are on extended rest, playing at home. And I think Indiana just has the advantages on special teams. I mean, Nebraska's kicked 9 field goals this year. They've only made 4 of them.
Ooh.
They got some trouble.
You throwing out some special teams nuggets in here, man.
And then Indiana's got the advantages as far as just kind of being the more disciplined team. Penalty-wise, Nebraska averages 8.4 penalties per game, 125th in the country. IU, they're not much better. They're 6.6, but it's just, will Nebraska, I mean, I know Memorial Stadium's not huge, okay? It's not a noisy place to play by any means, but It's going to be about as loud as anyone's ever heard it there in a really long time, probably since that 2020 COVID season when no one was there. So, yeah, it's going to be as loud as anybody's heard it. Man, I'd say maybe since the Antoine Randall L days, way back when.
Yeah.
So, I'll take IU to win.
Okay.
I'd probably, 6.5, probably too much points. But again, I could see, Nebraska and Raiola on the road as a freshman. Hostile environment, kind of hitting a freshman wall there. So I don't have any pick in the game on the spread.
I got you. One more thing I wanted to say on this game. I should have said it a minute ago. You mentioned it. We talked about it, how Nebraska's defense, how really good they are against the run. Right. So far, they faced Colorado, who can throw the football, but dude, they could not block me and you that night. They literally could not block. Yep. So I think you can throw that out.
Yep.
Luke Altmaier in Illinois did throw the rock on him and threw it all and was very efficient and threw it around the yard on him in Lincoln Memorial. So Indiana, I don't think is going to line up and try to just run into the teeth of the vanilla gorilla in that defensive front. They're going to throw the ball and try to stretch the field. So I think Indiana's strengths on offense can be a problem for Nebraska's defense. But again, I want to see Indiana's defense against Nebraska's offense. I think that's your two matchups there that we could see in this one. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Indiana wins, and if you made me pick against the spread, I'd take the points with Nebraska.
Yep. Last game we'll talk about in our marquee matchups is LSU at Arkansas, 7 o'clock on ESPN. It looks like Taylen Green is trending in the right direction to play in this game. So LSU obviously coming off big spot. This is a terrible spot for him. Terrible spot. Arkansas, I don't think Arkansas played last week, right?
Nope. They were on a bye.
Yeah, they were on a bye after that win against Tennessee. They're back at home in Fayetteville, at night in Fayetteville. So it's just not a good spot for the Tigers.
No, it's not. And this is one of those, again, I mean, this is a rivalry game. Battle for the Golden Boot.
Yep.
And
there's been some wacky games in this rivalry.
There has. And again, maybe an LSU fan would tell me different on this, but it's a rivalry game, but I think it means a little more to one side. I think it means a little more to Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
In this spot, especially over the last several years, because I think they probably feel a little slighted, a little underdogish as far as compared to LSU. So it's a big deal to the Hogs in this game. And obviously, too, Sam Pittman, up at this point, it's a long season, but you got to think he's definitely in the right direction of saving his job right now. But you go and win this game after you've already beat Tennessee, and then you go out and beat another highly ranked team and another top 10 team in LSU. He would have to really fall off the rest of the year not to save his job in this game. But as far as the spot is concerned, we saw Blake Baker and that defensive staff, what they did last week of being able to step up and hold Ole Miss to under 30 points and do a really good job defensively in that game. And it's interesting, man, because, I came on here a few weeks ago and talked about how I thought Harold Perkins was one of the most overrated defensive players that I've seen. And then, of course, he ended up tearing his ACL. I hate injuries. I hate that happened to the kid because he's got a bright future in the NFL. But as far as, again, as much as he was talked about for LSU, every week everybody talked about how great this guy was, and then you're wondering where he's at on the TV when you're watching games ever since his freshman year. And Greg McElroy talked about on his show and his own podcast and on McElroy and Kubelik there on Jocks 94.5 in Birmingham about how that without Harold Perkins, it kind of opened the door a little bit for LSU maybe to play a little more like sound overall as a defense. And it was not a blessing in disguise because you've got a guy that's just like as athletic as Perkins is, but this Whit Weeks guy at linebacker, number 40 for LSU, he became more of that focal point of the middle of the defense there at middle linebacker, and it turned him loose as that, basically the quarterback of the defense. The dude had 18 tackles against Ole Miss. I'm going to repeat that. 18 tackles and 10 solo tackles.
And a sack and a forced fumble.
Yeah. 2 tackles for a loss. If you go through box scores on a lot of games and see these defenses, you're not going to see anybody really have a game like that.
I mean, they said him and Cube were saying he's the best linebacker in the SEC.
Yeah, right now, yeah, though, as good as he's playing, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I'm not saying that losing Harold Perkins is some great thing for LSU, and I hate that the kid's injured, but maybe there is something to that. That Weeks at middle linebacker in that spot is a better overall fit for LSU. It sure did look like it against Ole Miss. So
it could just be a better fit for Blake Baker's defense.
100%. 100%. Right? So, and again, you know how it is too, man. When you're not just completely depending on one person as much for things, everybody else around elevates their level of play. Mm-hmm. You see it in basketball too. It happens when one guy goes down, everybody else steps up their level of play because they have to be able to win games. Maybe that's what we're seeing with LSU's defense. But this game really comes down to Arkansas wants to run the football. They've been one of the best teams at running the football in the country until the Tennessee game that we've seen, which Jaquindon Jackson and Taylor Green running the football too from the quarterback position. But this game really comes down to can they contain Taylor Green from getting out of the pocket and running the football? Can they stop the run? Because LSU's run defense, while it was better these last couple of games, it's still not Tennessee's run defense. And then on the flip side of it is, can Arkansas's defense, we know what LSU is going to do. They're going to sling the ball around with Garrett Nussmeier and those receivers. Can they get some turnovers and force some turnovers? Because we know Nussmeier is just how he is. He's a gunslinger. He's going to put the ball in harm's way and in tight windows. Can they get their hands on the ball and actually intercept a few of them and force some turnovers? And I think that Arkansas is a live dog in this game. Absolutely. The line tells you that. Only they're, again, an unranked team facing a top 10 team, and the top 10 teams only laying 2.5 points in this spot. I mean, what are your thoughts on the matchup?
How likely is it Sunday night when we do our recap show? How likely is it we're sitting here talking about Arkansas with their remaining schedule, possibly a dark horse at 3-1 in the conference with wins over Tennessee and LSU already to make the conference championship game?
I mean, man, it really would come down to they get Ole Miss at home, and they get Texas at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know they go to Missouri last game of the year. I mean, it depends on if Missouri improves or not throughout the year. But I mean, it's not out of the question, man.
That's talk about killer home schedule for Hogs fans.
Oh, it is, dude. It is. Imagine if Arkansas's only got 2 losses on Saturday, November the 16th, getting Texas at home.
And let's think about this too. Next year, we're going to look forward to 2025. They're going to have to go on the road to Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas. So might be looking forward to a fate of the Razorbacks next year.
Brutal, no doubt. But I think Arkansas can play with them in this game, man. Absolutely. I mean, I think this is going to be a war. Arkansas's play. I mean, you look at Arkansas' schedule this year. We talked about how they dominated Oklahoma State. Literally had almost 700 yards of offense, and Oklahoma State only had 300-something yards. Was up by 1 billion in that game and blew it. So there's that one. And then they had every chance. They had every chance to beat Texas A&M and didn't get it done. I mean, they're this close. They, worst case right now, should be whatever the record is right now, 5-1, 4-2. They should be 5-1. They could be 6-0, but they should be 5-1 going into this game.
They're probably 8-9 Taylor Green turnovers away from being a top 10 team. So
that is. I'll say this: I've watched multiple Arkansas games this year with my eyeballs, and I've said this multiple times. We've talked about them this year. You get the full Taylor Green experience every game. You're going to see this guy, and you're going to watch the game, and you're going to be like, it's some of the plays he's going to make. It's like 6'6", 225, when he's gliding around like an antelope and making throws, like running one way, kind of like Cam Ward. He's running to his left.
Very similar to Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, he's running to his left, and all of a sudden he just kind of contorts his body and barely flicks his wrist and slings it 45 yards on a freaking dime to somebody who's covered and just throws it and drops it right in someone's hands. And then on the next play, he'll drop back, and he may just drop the ball in shotgun, just hit himself in the thigh and drop the ball and fumble it. Or he'll throw the ball on a flat and throw it 2 yards behind the guy in the flats and hit the linebacker right in the chest with it for an interception. That's the full Taylor Green experience that you get.
Exactly.
Garrett Nussmeier will throw the ball and put it in a teacup all over the field, and then all of a sudden he's going to throw it into triple coverage thinking he can fit it in that window, and it's intercepted.
Yep. All right, game picks. I've got a bet in this game. I took Arkansas +3, and I took them on the money line as well, +120.
Hey, calling the Hogs. I see you. Woo pig.
Call the Hogs. It's just a spot. It's a spot bet for me. It's just LSU, that overtime win against Ole Miss. Arkansas has shown they can play at home this year very well. As long as Taylor Green takes care of the ball, I think they've got a really good shot at winning this game. I think Jaquindon Jackson will have success on the ground. And I think they will make enough plays on defense, and I think Arkansas will get it done.
I like it, man. They're on my list as far as possibles for the week. I haven't got there yet, but they're on my list.
Okay. Real quickly, let's talk about a handful of other games here that are going on. We have a ranked matchup that we didn't put in our marquee matchups because I don't think either one of us really believes in Michigan this year. It's kind of a joke that Army and Navy are kind of sandwiched around Michigan in the top 25. Michigan's sitting there at 24. I mean, there's just absolutely no reason that Vanderbilt shouldn't be ranked over Michigan right now. With
just
the resume
brand.
they put
It's just the brand.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's just the brand.
That's what the AP poll is. So
yeah,
Michigan is going on the road. They're playing Illinois. Illinois, obviously, they had that game against Purdue last week, where I think they got caught looking ahead a little bit. They were looking ahead of this one. They're 3.5-point dogs at home right now, which is a very appealing line for a home dog that's ranked, and that's faced a Michigan team that hasn't really shown they can throw the ball much. Now they're going to have Jack Tuttle in this game, and they've had a week off to prepare for this game. So maybe they've devised some sort of plan. I don't know if they really have any wide receivers that have shown anything that they can make any plays. They're going to have to run the ball, and it's a 3:30 CBS game in Champaign. So you got to, the CBS was just dreaming of this when they signed this contract. They're just going to Champaign at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. But old Bert down there in Champaign, he's going to have him ready to go, man. He's a great football coach, in my opinion. I don't know what happened at Arkansas, but he's a really good football coach.
Yeah, he should have never left Wisconsin. I mean, I think if you behind closed doors, he would tell you he should still be up there jumping around in Madison. But I think that this is, speaking of Bert, you know what Bert likes, man. Bert wants to have a line of scrimmage. Let's let the big uglies eat up front. Let's just 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Let's just maul each other. And he's fine. They're fine with doing that. I think Illinois' defense matches up totally fine with Michigan. A lot of defenses match up totally fine with Michigan. But like, for example, USC. USC's defense doesn't necessarily match up great for what Michigan's going to want to do. I think Illinois does. And Luke Altmaier has been a really good quarterback this year for Illinois.
14
really
touchdowns,
good.
1 pick.
Exactly. He's probably the best quarterback in the country that not enough people are talking about right
He
now.
has to, because they're only averaging 3.9 yards per carry.
Exactly. So to my point on that, Michigan's against the run. Like if Illinois was a typical old Big Ten West team that was going to line up like Iowa and just run left and run right and punt, then I think that would match up better for Michigan. Illinois' offense, because they want to throw the ball with Luke Altmaier. I think that's what you got to do against Michigan. And I think, man, am I talking myself into Illinois here? And I think Illinois on the defensive side can stop the run or can hold up good enough against the run. The only reason I have not pulled the trigger on Illinois yet is because I still respect this Michigan coaching staff enough that I think that they, even though they lost, I think they found finally, we know their identity, they want to run the ball. But you got to have something in the passing game, something. They at least showed in that Washington game that they have the ability to throw the ball. Now I know he threw a couple picks, but I do think that Michigan, with 2 weeks to prepare, 2 weeks to get Tuttle more snaps, and he's just getting all the reps with the ones, that there's a chance that we see a little bit of a different Michigan team in this game. But again, I think Illinois matches up fine with them. I just haven't got there yet. I'm definitely not taking Michigan but I've not got there yet to take Illinois plus 3.5 personally.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. I mean, jury's still out on Sharon Moore for me.
Yeah,
He
should be.
Came in last year, coached a couple games with an extremely talented team.
Yeah.
And then some of the decisions they've made this year.
And Harbaugh coached all week during the week, helping game planning. He just couldn't coach on Saturday.
Exactly. And some of the decisions they've made on the field this year, either personnel-wise or just decision-making wise, not impressed me one bit. So
yeah, they're down to the third. They're literally in their third quarterback. We're barely halfway through the season.
Exactly. So jury's still out on him. May have a bet on Illinois plus 3.5. We'll see if Michigan money still comes in. It gets to plus 4. But who knows? Big game Braum is in town in Louisville, and he's hosting the top 10 team as a 5-point underdog at noon on ABC. I remember buddy? What was it? 7-8 years ago, number top 5 team, Florida State, comes into Louisville. Lamar Jackson's there, and they win that game like 63-20 or something like that. I mean, they just ran up and down the field. Obviously, Tyler Shuck is not Lamar Jackson, but they've got the firepower. And Miami's defense has given up a lot of big plays this year to both Virginia Tech and Cal.
Ja'Cory Brooks and Colin Lacey on the outside can go for Louisville. And Tyler Shuck can sling it.
Again, though, Miami had a bye last week after that Cal game. Louisville had a tough game against UVA. Maybe they were looking ahead, similar to Illinois, but
Louisville's defense has been awful.
Yeah,
they just call it what it is. They've been bad. They're the reason that they've lost 2 of their last 3 games, and were in a dogfight at Virginia last week.
This is a big one for Miami, though. I mean, for Louisville too, to stay in the ACC hunt. But this is a big one for Miami, because if they drop this game with SMU's schedule, it might be tough for them to. If SMU can win out, they haven't lost a conference game yet. So it's crazy, dude. And thinking back on those 2 SEC games we talked about, Tennessee and Alabama and LSU-Arkansas, I mean, those are basically SEC championship game elimination games right there.
Yeah.
And when you boil it down to it. And this is almost an ACC elimination game right here. I mean, that's kind of the margin for error you have in the ACC.
Yeah, it for sure is for Louisville. Louisville drops it, they're out. But yeah, I mean, again, Braum in these spots in his career has been very good. So I wish this game was not at noon, man. Like, I hate to bring it up about your Irish, but I was hoping it was going to be a similar deal like it was last year when Notre Dame went there. A night game there in Louisville, top 10 Miami, big brand like Miami showing up. All those, I'm sure the fans will, because of the brand. Like somebody brought up to me the other day, like, yeah, they played SMU at noon recently. Look what they did. Yet, no offense to SMU. I mean, Miami being ranked in the top 10 and the brand that Miami is, it'll bring out the best of that Louisville crowd. Even at noon, it'll still be rocking. This is their best home game of the year. So I expect that fan base to show up and to get rowdy. But it's just, I mean, I want to back. This was like one that I had circled weeks ago. I said, I'm going to back Braum and Louisville in this spot. Again, I haven't pulled the trigger yet because Louisville has just been bad. Like, at defending the pass, they weren't. I mean, Notre Dame, I think, was the only team in the last so many weeks to not throw for over 270-something yards against them. And Miami's got who? Cam Ward? So
I don't think he's thrown for under 300 yards.
Right. So that's what scares me. I fully believe that Braum and that offense will get some on Miami. I do think that Colin Lacey and Ja'Cory Brooks in the passing game will hit some big plays against Miami. I just don't know that Louisville can stop Miami, man. That's my problem.
Yeah. Noon also on ESPN. Auburn going on the road to Mizzou. This line has dropped from 6.5 to 4.5. I'll go ahead and let everyone know. I got the Auburn Tigers at plus 6.5. I should have taken them plus 7 when it opened up and we did guess the spread on Monday morning or Sunday night. But I got them at plus 6.5. Just have no faith in Missouri Tigers, and Auburn's been good. They've been. I mean, every coach who's played against them will tell you that. Kirby said that. They can't
stop turning the ball over.
Can't stop turning the ball over. So I know Mizzou has coming off a bye, but so is Auburn. So both teams are rested.
Mizzou's not off a bye, but they might as well be. They played
Oh, I mean UMass.
They
Sorry,
played at UMass.
Totally forgot they played.
Yeah, they went to the Northeast and played UMass last week.
Yeah, so I'd probably still I maybe even would take a look at Auburn plus 4.5. I mean that it's just I think it's going to be another close game.
Yeah, so I gave out Alabama earlier. One of my other best bets this week, I took Auburn plus 5.
Iron Bowl bet right there.
Yeah, I took Auburn plus 5 against Mizzou.
Good little Iron Bowl parlay, Alabama and Auburn.
Don't know about that. But again, I need to see something from this Mizzou team.
Yeah,
I need to see something from Brady Cook. We know how great the receivers are. We know how good the play caller is. I need to see more from this Mizzou defense against good competition. Auburn, if you look at the numbers, offensive efficiency wise and like offensive total yards wise, actually moving the football down the field. Auburn has been one of the best teams in the country at moving the football this year. They just can't stop giving it to the other team.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't turn the ball over, I think they can win this game. I do think that I don't know what the numbers are, nor do I care at this point in regards to Freeze off a bye. I mean, he's at a completely different program and different players, whatever. But Freeze with 2 weeks to prepare for this game, trying to turn their season around. I think these are two very equal football teams. And again, the game's at noon. I think that helps negate the crowd a little bit. If this game were at night at Mizzou, I would think a little different in regards to that as well. So I think that Auburn's ran the football well too with Jarquez Hunter. We saw Texas A&M what they did running the football against Mizzou. I think Auburn can run the football. I think you may see some running here from the quarterback position as well with Peyton Thorne for Auburn. And so, yeah, I'll take the 5 points. I think Auburn can win the game, but I'll take Auburn plus 5. It won't shock me either way who wins. Hey, surprise. Guess what? Another war, Tyler. Another one. I think this is going to be, a very tightly contested, very good football game. So I'll take the point. If you're going to have a tightly contested football game like I think this one's going to be, I'll take Auburn plus 5.
The only thing that scares me with Drink is if Missouri's up by 4 and they've got the ball at the 25-yard line with 6 seconds to go and they can kneel the ball out to win, he will kick a field goal and he will cover that spread every time.
And,
so,
hey, as he should. All the boosters and the fans that back their coach, heck yeah. People like me and you and people that are betting against his team, he should want to make us pay for that.
If that scenario happens, I will be his number one hater on here. He'll take over Deion Sanders' spot in my
that
heart.
Is still why the Mizzou fans love this guy. They know that he tries to make sure that their pockets ain't empty.
Yep. Speaking of Deion, let's get to a couple Big 12 games. Colorado going on the road to Arizona. If you listen on Sunday or Monday, I gave out the Buffaloes plus 4. Looks like Travis Hunter is trending towards playing. So the line is ticked down to 3.
Sharp.
It's 4 o'clock on Fox. So shout out to me. I'm not a Buff hater anymore.
I know, man. We might actually gain some Colorado fans back here and watching them because I don't think any of them listen to our show anymore because of you. But
whatever.
It's okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is as far as quarterback play in college football. No, I'm gonna go. I ain't gonna go that far. Never mind. I was about to say
Fafita has really ticked down from last year.
He has, yeah. And look what Jed Fish has been doing up there in Washington. Yeah. So I wonder how much was Jed Fish with Fafita. But yeah, Fafita has not been the same this year. He's still a solid quarterback. But yeah, as far as quarterback play, I wasn't going to say Fafita's better than but no way. I wasn't going to say he was better than Shadur. What I was going to say was this overall quarterback play on the field this Saturday. This is as good as this is up there with as good as you're going to see across the country as far as two quarterbacks in the same game. But it's not the best. It's not better than Beck and Ewers and stuff like that. But it's a good one. What is Colorado? Can they bounce back? I want to see what their psyche is like after that heartbreaking into the fourth quarter loss to Kansas State that they had last week. Can they get up off the mat and go on the road in the desert and perform on the road against this Arizona squad that's also I'm sure, hungry for a win off back-to-back losses. So yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with what you. I just don't have it say either way. If you made
Dion
me,
should love this. He should love this early kick because all he does is complain when they kick off at 10:15 Eastern.
yeah. If you made me pick the game, I guess I'd have to. I'll roll with you and have to take Shador in Colorado in this spot and those receivers. But I don't have a pick in this game, so if you made me pick it, I'd take a shot at Colorado.
Nice. Other Big 12 game, Kansas State at West Virginia. 3.5-point dogs at home again for West Virginia, the Mountaineers, again at night, 7:30 on Fox, right after that Colorado-Arizona game. It'll be on the second TV. And Kansas State, back-to-back road games. I don't think it matters. I mean, I can't bring myself to trust West Virginia anymore.
No, last year we talked about it. Going into this year, West Virginia was one of those darlings for everybody. Last year, they got blasted by Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Penn State, any good team they played, any ranked good team they played last year, they got spanked. This year, they played Penn State, got spanked. Iowa State the other night, get spanked. I would love to take the points at home with West Virginia. Can't do it. Just can't do it. And I also know how this works. If you are one of those that get involved a lot with sports betting, you know how this works. West Virginia burns me last week, and I turn right around this week and put my hard-earned money on Kansas State and go against West Virginia. Then the exact same spot that I was in last week, getting 3.5 at home to a good, solid ranked football team in the Big 12 and Kansas State this week, that I'll take Kansas State, and then West Virginia will decide to show up and burn me. So for that reason, I'm staying away. But I like Kansas State in this game. I think they win. I think they cover, but I'm staying away from the spread.
Yep, Kansas State, definitely a game I'm keeping an eye on too. Just kind of want to see what that spread will do. Last game we'll talk about, Kentucky at Florida. This line has moved 4 points since we talked about it in guess spread last episode. Florida was favored by 2 at the opening line. Now Kentucky's favored by 2. And that sounds eerily similar to me to the UCF at Florida game, where UCF opened up as dogs, ended up as favorites. Florida, all they did is win that game 24-13. Now, I know Graham Mertz tore his ACL. That sucks for that guy, but, and I mean, it's not, I guess, maybe silver lining, but Florida fans are going to get what they wanted to see in week 3. They wanted DJ Lagway. That's what they all wanted, right? So we'll get to see how he does against Kentucky's defense. At home, 7:45, SEC Network. Stop me if you've heard this before, but this is Billy Napier's last stand.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is going to be a defensive slugfest. I don't know what the total is in this game, but Kentucky's offense is not good. Florida's offense with Lagway, I don't think
42.5 is the total.
42.5? Yeah. Yep. I mean, unless there's
NFL a bunch total right there.
Right. Unless there's a bunch of turnovers, I can see this game going under. I think with Lagway, I don't think they're just going to turn him loose and let him just like go nuts, slinging the football all over the field by any means or anything like that. So I think both teams are going to lean on their defenses. God, man. If you made me pick it, I think I'd take a shot at Kentucky in the points.
Ooh, boy.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, Florida's the one I'm keeping an eye on too.
Okay.
Haven't bet them yet, but I mean, it's just.
Well, notice I didn't feel too confident when I just said I think I'd take a shot.
Yeah.
I think I'd take a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. When that line goes that much in that direction, I know it's if that was an NFL game, I'd be betting Kentucky, but it's just college football, man. And again, I think these players are playing hard for Billy. I think they are doing everything they can. They know his butt's on the line, but they're doing everything they can to keep their guy around. So, and I think, Lagway doesn't have a lot of film on him. So maybe that throws Kentucky for a loop. Kentucky obviously coming off a home loss as a 12-point, 13-point favorite last week to Vandy. So kind of a little bit of a rivalry game there somewhat. But, ever since that Georgia game, I mean, Kentucky's also, they've got pounded by South Carolina. Like, you just never know what Kentucky team's gonna show up. So let's move on. Upset alert. You got any teams you want to put on upset alert?
Yeah, man. Upset alert wise, I am looking at putting Mizzou
Ooh, boy. Here
on
we
upset
go.
alert.
Okay.
I think that Auburn can win the game outright. So Auburn, right? I got Auburn at +5. I think they can win the game. So I'm putting Mizzou on upset alert against Auburn.
Okay. If Illinois was +4, they would be on upset alert for sure. So they may get there. I mean, they're +3.5. If you haven't listened to upset alert before, +4 or higher as the rule. I'm putting a couple teams on upset alert. One we already talked about, and it's just because of Jeff Brom and Miami's 5-point favorites. They're on the road. You know, I just think Miami's been playing with fire, right? They've been playing with fire the past couple of weeks, and they just they're bound to get burnt. So can Louisville do it? I'm not sure, but Miami is on upset alert. Also, I'm going to put USC on upset alert because they're traveling all the way across the country, and everybody is leaving Maryland for dead. They're 7.5-point dogs right now.
Huge,
what's
huge opportunity for
USC's
Maryland against a good brand.
Yeah, and what's USC's psyche,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I mean, after blowing that game last week, they've got 3 losses on the schedule now. I mean, they're out of the Big Ten championship race pretty much. They'd have to have a miracle to have at-large contention in for the CFP. So, what's their psyche? And obviously, what's Maryland's psyche after last time out, getting blasted by Northwestern? So, I think USC should be on upside alert as well. Best bets time. I already gave out a couple on last show. I had Army minus 16.5. I think you can actually find 15.5 right now. So I don't know why you wouldn't take Army at this point. Navy against Charlotte minus 17. There may be a 16.5 out there. And I put Colorado +4. And then a couple more I mentioned during the show. Auburn +6.5. And then Arkansas +3. And also on the money line at +120 as well. And then I got a first ever for us here on the show. Hashtag time zone parlay.
Ooh.
What's the stat, Lance? Give me the stat on the teams that are traveling 3 time zones, especially in the Big Ten.
Yeah. So last week, I think everybody was talking about it, that it was like teams that have traveled, I think multiple times. I think like three time zones, was it? Yeah. 3 time zones were like 1 in 10 going into the weekend against the spread. And last weekend, they were 1 in 4. So what's that? 2 and 14? Yeah, 2 and 14 against the spread on the year. Last week, some examples of that. Penn State traveling to USC. Penn State won the game, but USC covered. That was one of the examples of that. You had Minnesota last week, traveled to UCLA. Minnesota won the game, but UCLA covered. The week prior to that, USC went to Minnesota. Minnesota won the game straight up, and they covered. USC went to Michigan. Michigan won the game, and they covered. So those are just some examples. Ohio State at Oregon. Oregon won the game and covered.
Yep. The only team that covered last week was Cal. They lost by 2 at Pitt. So there's 5 teams like that this week. I am not brave enough to take the Purdue Boilermakers, a team that I've seen in person lose 66-7 to Notre Dame. I know they played really well against Illinois. They didn't play well against Wisconsin. They didn't play well against Notre Dame. I know Oregon's in a spot right here, but 27, 28 points, it's too much for me. So I'm going to take Rutgers at home minus 4.5. Again, this is a parlay. Rutgers at home minus 4.5 against UCLA. That's tough for UCLA right there. They're probably a bottom 2 team in the Big Ten there with Purdue.
They're somehow they're playing hard for Deshaun Foster.
They're playing hard.
But they're
and that
losing.
Line has actually it's gone from 6.5 to 4.5.
Yeah.
So I got it at 4.5.
That's good.
I took Maryland +7.5 against USC. I took Cal minus 10 at home against NC State, who is in shambles right now.
Yep.
And then this was yesterday, I took Cincinnati minus 2.5 at home against Arizona State.
Great job by you.
I had no idea. I'll be honest. Now it's 6.5 because Sam Levitt is out for the Sun Devils. Jeff Sims is in. And I think everybody cannot get that game, Nebraska-Colorado last year, Jeff Sims out of their brains. So I took Cincinnati minus 2.5. Obviously, Arizona State coming off a huge home win against Utah last week, going on the road to Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati's a solid team this year. So I got Rutgers minus 4.5, Cincinnati minus 2.5, Maryland plus 7.5, Cal minus 10 at plus 1,700. So it means a $10 bet wins $170. So that's what I did this week.
Nice, man. Nice. I definitely don't have as much action as you because, again, I've been banged up, bro. Been on the injured list a little bit this week and had a time to really study
Yeah.
some bets. I've been watching the back of my eyelids,
You'll
trying to
get
get
there.
over
You'll
all
get there
this.
by Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll see the board. Before Saturday. But right now, I've got Alabama -2.5 against Tennessee and Auburn +5 against Mizzou. That's the only two that I've got right now. Others that I'm looking at Nebraska taking the points. I think Indiana probably wins the game, but I like the points with Nebraska there. That under in that Florida-Kentucky game may be something I take a look at. I might hop in there with you on Arkansas. That might be something I take a look at. But yeah, and Navy against old Biff Poggi and the boys.
Yeah.
Might be something I'll look at. But yeah, Auburn +5, Alabama -2.5 right now.
Yeah, keep an eye on Illinois too. Keep an eye on Florida. Keep an eye on Kansas State, and also keep an eye on South Carolina.
Wrong team's favorite in that game.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah, they're +2.5 right now, and if some money comes in on Oklahoma for some reason, gets to 3, like that's an auto bet. I mean, it may just be an auto bet right now. So haven't pulled the trigger yet, but again, check out our socials on Saturday, especially on X. Saturday morning we'll put out our bets. And we're going to be watching all the games this weekend. That doubleheader is going to be awesome. And we'll be back as usual on Sunday night on YouTube and Monday morning on Apple and Spotify for the breakdown of all the big games. So until next time.